In today's episode, Brian and Henry talk about golden hour photography, tips, techniques, gear, and everything else about the golden hour.
Welcome to the All Outdoors Photography Podcast with your hosts Henry Doyle and Ryan Taylor, where we discuss all things related to outdoor and nature photography.
Welcome back to the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. This is episode 26, and today we're talking about a very special time of day.
Yes, we are talking about the golden hour. So this is basically the span of time surrounding the time of sunrise and sunsets. Obviously, it's very popular with landscape photography and really just any other outdoor and nature photography. So yeah, this episode is going to be all about that, the special time of day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
probably the best, that some would say.
Arguably, yeah, the best quality of
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
So we'll see how many times we say light in this episode. Probably say it a lot.
So, Ryan, you're a bit more of an expert than me. So, what is golden hour?
Well, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know these definitions off the top of my head, but like from my sources, websites I'm looking up right now, it's basically when the sun is close to the horizon, the light appears warmer and softer. So typically how do I explain this? When the sun is lower on the horizon, it looks bigger. First off, that's just kind of like an optical illusion to our eyes, I guess, and the light's more directional. So that's more attractive because it's typically like a softer, as I just said, and more lower contrast light. It's much more desirable for images because you got to imagine when it's like the middle of the day and that sun's just high noon, it's right overhead, and it's a bright, let's just say blue sunny sky day. It's going to create the really high contrast scenes. If you try and shoot a portrait out in open light or like a headshot, it's going to have lots of shadows drooped on the face and on the cheeks. It's going to look really undesirable. Landscapes obviously are going to look more washed out. I never even do nowadays long exposures in a bright sunny sky day. It's just not
Yeah.
worth it to me.
Ooh.
But in that case, I'll be overcast. But in the instance of this episode, speaking golden hour, yeah, it's just much more beautiful directional light, and I find that the colors are much more warmer. It doesn't matter what time of year, even in winter, like it just has much more boldness to it that I just find so much more desirable.
And the light is, like you said, kind of diffused enough to where you can get a good shot with still a nice amount of like highlight and shadow.
Hmm.
It's not so bright that it instantly overexposes if you try to get some shadow detail.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the name is literally spot on. Like, any photographer, anyone that enjoys or appreciates like sunrises and sunsets, I'd say more so with like sunsets, is that it's a much more warm. It literally is a golden light most of the time. And it looks so much better to the images because it is at that lower angle as the sun's traveling more through the Earth's atmosphere. So it just creates much more powerful look, I think, overall. And it, translates to better photographs, I believe.
Yeah, especially like if you got mountains or hills, if you could get like some nice golden light in those mountains, and just even with like even macro subjects,
Hmm.
get some like shadows and some golden tones on there. It's just
Hmm.
really desirable.
I think the reason why it's so desirable for outdoor photographers is that it's a special time of day. I think because like if it was like a sunset, it's that last hour of true daylight before the sun sets, and it's like very limited time, and it's just a desirable amount of light quality that you really don't get anywhere else in the day. It's always at the beginning or end of the day, and so you kind of have to make the most of it with whatever your maybe photographs you're potentially composing.
And I feel like it does well with non-photographers too. Like
Hmm.
uh, your audience usually has like a really good reception to like golden light,
Oh, definitely.
because that's usually like if a normal person's out on a trip and they're not a photographer, like they'll go outside in golden hour and kind of enjoy things and maybe check out sunrise or sunset. Um,
Hmm.
they can just
Yeah.
relate to it well.
I feel like the amount of people, like maybe people that don't consider themselves like true photographers, let's say, like maybe they just like casual snapshots with phones. That's okay, of course. But I feel like pretty much, I don't want to generalize, but I feel like most humans, most people, they enjoy sunrises, sunsets. I don't know. We could get real deep here if we want and be all pretentious, but like about why. But like, I just feel like everyone, appreciates those times of day because they are pretty special if you ask me. Like for me, it's like a rite of passage to see a sunrise. Getting up before dawn and going out with the camera and stuff. Getting up real nice and early just because you want to go with the camera. I'd rather sleep in most of the time, like most people, but it's like a special time of day to really take photographs and just be out in nature.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
And like you said, that harsh light for landscapes, especially, is just really, really just sucks. So golden light, if you see a scene and it doesn't work during the day, maybe come back at golden hour, and you can completely transform it.
Hmm. Yeah, I would even recommend like maybe choose a location really close to you and go there different times of day. Like maybe even in the same day. Just go there, sunrise, middle of the day, and then sunset, and just see how the quality of light. Maybe if you like point your lens and the camera at the same subject, and see how much that quality of light changes over the course of the whole day. And maybe each subject's different, of course, but like you'll see the difference pretty evidently, I think. And just it's really apparent if you ask me. You know, it's night and day, no pun intended. So while this episode is going to be pertaining about golden hour, I will just mention briefly the blue hour, which is typically known as twilight, and that's the time usually before. Is it before sunrise? I believe, where it's like a nice blue kind of cast, and it's the
Yeah,
time.
you'll
It's the
you'll get
time
it
after.
before.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you'll get it before sunrise, and then usually after sunset.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because I found, I mean, it's just how it is, but like the golden hour before sunset, let's say, is very very vibrant warm colors, and then that time afterwards, usually the direction facing away from the sun, it's very blue. It's got some pastoral kind of colors, like very pink and just really calm, I guess, blue colors, and it's just much more different kind of color palette that you don't get from like a
Mm.
traditional sunset. So
It's almost like a magenta tone sometimes too.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
almost lavender even
it's
at
really really
times.
nice. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's not the same amount of light you get in golden hour because obviously the sun has already set, or in the morning the sun hasn't even risen. But it's still, it's not pure dark. Like
Yes.
you'll have to maybe raise your ISO or crank that shutter up, but um, it's still, there's some levels of light, but nothing too like directional. Well, I guess yeah, there's no direction really, so just kind of a flat light over the scene.
Yeah, it's whatever direction the sun's at, So if it's rising, east and west, but it does get brighter over that time, and then to eventually it just kind of reaches this kind of, I guess, climax of like this is the sunrise, and it just hits you, and just
Mm.
lights up the sky. It's pretty cool. It's really neat, and Twilight on its own is very just I don't know, lack of adjectives, but it's very beautiful in its own right. Even in consideration with the golden hour, it's still like its own special time of day. And I just recommend any landscape photographers, or if you want to take sunset shots, let's say, don't just pack up and leave right after the sun hits, dips below the horizon. I would stay out after that because there may still be great
Oh
photographs
yeah,
to be had, with the
and
light.
the color usually sticks around in the sky, and
Oh yeah.
it kind of mixes with that kind of purple light,
Hmm.
bluish purple light, and the colors can even change a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
definitely
it's
stick around.
it's always changing minute by minute, and I think that's why I like these hours so much, is that it's just neat to see how they unfold, really, just minute by minute, and you can just see how the light and everything, kind of the clouds if there are any, and just the way it all hits the landscape. It's just really neat to me to see this, all these different changes and micro changes just happening all at once, and then just kind of breaking it down, minute by minute, and it's just neat to see it all kind of play out. And yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
I would recommend, if you find a good composition and you can really like commit to that, I would recommend setting up your tripod and just leaving it
Hmm.
throughout the sunset and throughout the blue hour, and just kind of seeing how the lighting changes.
Definitely.
Get drastically different shots.
Yeah, yeah, and just be patient. Like I just said a little bit ago, it's like if the sun hits below the horizon and it sets, like truly sets, don't just pack up and leave, because it's like that light can still kind of come back for a little bit, back out in the sky, or it could hit twilight and still look beautiful, and it'd be a completely different scene from what you just saw 10, 15 minutes ago. So you never know with the way astronomical events are, happening, I guess, and how the sky like turns out. Because each sunset to me and sunrise is pretty unique on its own. Like no two are really truly alike to me, and there's always some kind of different colors or stuff that's kind of playing out in the sky.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. So, how would you say, Henry, that you prepare for? I know you don't. You said you don't do much golden hour. You said, but like, how would you prepare for like a sunrise sunset shoot? Like, is there anything special or times or
Um,
what? Like, just talk us
well,
through it.
I know for sunset, I did a ton of sunset stuff this summer because I was up at the lake for I think 6 or 7 weeks. So, I mean, I would say I probably shot 3 nights a week at least. So I would always get there up to an hour early. Um, and since I had a lot of time in those locations, it was kind of local. Obviously, I don't live there, but I was there for a long period of time. So I kind of focused on one composition every night. So I'd set up the tripod, and just shoot throughout the night. Had not like a continuous shutter, but continuously pressing the shutter button, just leaving the focus locked in. Of course, adjusting the exposure based on the lighting conditions. And then after that, usually after the color kind of subsides, I might try to find another composition, but usually I'm just happy with the one um, with kind of the different light. And I would always check like weather apps. So I was usually shooting like it's not a seascape because it's a lake, but lakescapes, I guess.
Lakescape. Yeah.
So yeah, I check the weather app, try to see if there's clouds because you don't want that blocking the sun. I mean, unless that's the look you're going for, but I would check weather apps. Clear outside is a great one. It can show you like the
Hmm.
exact cloud cover as time progresses. Um, and then there's this other app I use. I'm trying to remember the name. Um,
Do you use photo
forget.
pills?
No, I haven't. I kind of want to, but
It's pretty cool. So it's got like augmented reality, and I've used it. I don't use it much, admittedly, so, but it has more tools than just the AR. But like you can use it to simulate like the direction of the
nice.
sun's and sun's position and everything. It's
Mhm.
pretty cool. It's a pretty cool app.
Yeah, I use an app that uh, you can set which style of photography you're doing, and it'll tell you if it's like optimal conditions. It was pretty cool. It actually worked pretty well. Like
Hmm.
it
It's neat.
never failed me. Like it was a pretty nice app. I
Cool.
can't remember the name, but I'll try to put in the description or something if I remember it. Um,
Hmm.
that's pretty much it. I'm really not much of a morning person, so I don't do a lot of sunrises. I mostly only do that on trips. But I guess for sunrises, just make sure you have an alarm, and just be ready to wake up early, get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Try and
What
eat a
about
nice
you?
breakfast if you can,
Uh
because
yeah.
I can't describe like for me the creative process and like being hungry is the worst two worst things to go together. Yeah.
Bring even if you've already eaten breakfast, maybe bring a granola bar or something to eat while you're like waiting for the light to come in.
Yeah, you have to like eat. I don't know. For me, I can only speak for myself in this case, but like you have to eat something. I try not to eat something that's too heavy because then you just kind of go outside and you're like, "Ugh," carrying your gear and hiking if you are, and it's like, but eat something that's filling. And then I always, of course, I always bring snacks every trip, stuff to keep in my car or in my bag, just like stuff that's like Cliff Bars or I don't know, an apple, stuff that's just small and can be packed pretty easily. But just nice little snacks for the trip, however long I'm out that day. But yeah, anyway, so for I guess for what I do for my shoots, it really just depends. Like kind of like you, Henry, it's like I don't for sunrises. I'm not really a morning person. I mean, I force myself to get up pretty early. Lately, that's been about 6 o'clock, and so if I'm going out that morning because it's favorable conditions or what have you, I'll do that. But I do like to sleep in a lot more, as much as I can at least. So sunsets are more of my
Uh,
speed, but yeah, for sunrise, it's just about the motivation. You have to like fight yourself to get out of bed and just go out there and do it. Like this morning, as we're recording this episode, this morning I went out and I woke up at like 6 o'clock, like I just said, and I got out just right before sunrise truly happened, and it was worth it honestly because I took this pretty cool tree shot that I had planned out, and the reason why I mainly went out before sunrise for this morning, and take advantage of the golden hour is that I knew it'd be a sunny day throughout. So I was like, all right, I have this limited the hour itself. I have this limited amount of time to take advantage of this nice, beautiful light. Because I know the longer it goes on that morning, it's going to get much more brighter and just harsher light. So that's simply the reason why I chose today to go out early. I guess I could have gone out later, but it might not yield the same results for that photograph, for example. And so for sunsets, that's much more easier for me. I feel like I'm not as rushed with sunsets versus sunrises. Sunsets, I can kind of, if I'm planning out a shot or prepared for it, go to the location before, try to get there as early as you can so you can set up and make sure you can watch that light. Like I said, just unfold before your eyes in camera and just, play it by ear, honestly. Like if it's a productive night or evening, and I might experiment with other blue hour shots as well around the same area or whatever I'm at, so yeah. But other than that, I don't really carry much specialized gear for these shots. I mean, just besides my cameras and lenses and all that stuff. I guess I will recommend, I guess, for darkness at the beginning and end of days, a headlamp. Get a good quality one.
Mm-hmm.
I use I think it's a Petzl one. That's a good brand. I think it's like 300 lumens, which is super bright, and it has like SOS blinking features. It has
Oh,
red light as
nice.
well as white light.
Cool.
Because some of you may know, the red light helps your eyes adjust better to the darkness than white. It's just like eye science, I guess. I don't know all about that, but I know the red light helps your eyes adjust better to darkness in the nighttime. So, yeah, I guess a
Huh.
headlamp's one thing I'd
Mm.
recommend in
Yeah.
particular.
What
Um,
I use for that, I have an LO Bean hat that has like a built-in flashlight. It's very
hmm,
compact. Voice crack, but it's very compact. Like it's not like bulky. The
hmm,
batteries like go in the back, and then there's like a cord that goes around to the front,
hmm.
and that could do red flashing, and then like your standard light.
Is it
So that's
bright?
pretty cool. If you, yeah, it's pretty bright. It's not quite as bright as a headlamp, but you can see a good amount.
Okay.
And that's kind of good if you want to be like a little bit more low key, I guess.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. I've gotten some weird looks. I do have a headlamp as well. Gotten some weird looks before with that.
The
Uh,
headlamp gets weird looks, yeah.
Understandably, but yeah, that's very important. You don't want to trip on a trail, especially at sunrise or sunset. I mean, that
hmm
could get life
That
threatening
could get
pretty quickly.
hairy, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
quickly. Yeah. I
especially if you're doing like early morning, like seascape stuff.
oh gosh, no.
Fall into the water or something.
I hope not. I've never like I don't know. I usually get to the locations later than I'd like to admit. Like if it's a sunrise, and I'm usually always late to them, like last minute, like arriving, and the light's starting to like really start up for the day. So I really don't find myself using the headlamp. Like I'm never in like a true. I'm never like hours before sunrise. Like hiking in the darkness. But maybe someday I'll do that just for fun, or if
Mm.
I need to like actually hike out miles to a particular spot and use the
Do you
headlamp.
find, yeah, do you find that the pressure, like say you get to a sunrise late, do you find that the pressure motivates you, or does it like get in your head?
For sunrise, I mean, it's kind of both. It's a pressure that I welcome to some extent. It's more like, okay, it's like the drive there, let's say, I'm like kind of freaking out. Like I have like 5 minutes until sunrise, and I have like a couple miles of driving to do, which isn't a lot. Sure, that's a few minutes. But like once I get to the location, I'm like, and like once I'm like boots on the ground, I'm ready to go. Bags, everything packed, ready. Like it should already be ready. I'm saying, but like I'll get out of the car and put on my bag, hit the trails or something. I'm actually much more calmer then. Like once I'm actually at the location, I find myself like more centered and more grounded and like okay, now I can focus on the task at hand or whatever I'm doing. So it's a little bit of both, I'd say. Obviously, I don't really want to be pressured too much because then I just make a subpar photograph that's I kind of forced in a way. So I'd rather have more time, I guess, than
Mm.
not.
Yeah.
Which is why I like sunsets more, like I said, because it's like you're seeing the light change and you only have more time, so to speak. I don't know. I just feel more
Yeah, with
prepared.
sunsets, you can, usually see the sun going down, so you can kind
Yes.
of tell. I think there's something you could do with like your fingers that like you can actually like time it. Um,
Yeah, I've seen that. It seems like like a hitchhiker thing or something. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know what. I can't think of the name of it,
Yeah,
honestly.
it's blank in my mind as well.
Yeah,
But
me too. Anyone that knows that may be listening, chime in, email us,
yeah,
DM
please
us
do.
on at Instagram at All Outdoors Photography Podcast. Um,
Yeah, follow us on LinkedIn. Yeah,
you got to admit that was pretty smooth. We weren't even planning on that little promotion, but
yeah.
anyways, no, you're right. You can kind of predict. I think it's with the horizon. You can like your knuckles, and you can level it or something. But I feel like I think that's what you're talking about. But
Maybe I don't know.
anyways, yeah, it's all
It's
up in
been
here.
so long since I've done like serious golden hour photography.
Yeah, I know. Well, not really, but I don't know. I've been finding myself doing that more and more. I don't know. I've been more selective and choosy lately. Like I used to be more forgiving of like, it's high noon. The sun's way out in full force, but I'm still out here with my camera. I'm finding myself more and more just being like, I'm not going to find much goodness. I'm not saying it's impossible, but like, I'm just finding my motivation will get much more
Yeah,
dampened. I don't know. I like hiking in sunny weather, but like for photography speaking, I don't know. I find
I
myself
like
being
bird
much more choosy.
photography. I like bird photography in sunny weather. I think it's
Oh, really?
pretty
Well,
nice.
I guess it
Yeah,
depends. I mean, yeah.
I
Go
mean
ahead.
today there was a really bright blue sky,
Yes.
and I literally got like my favorite bird shot of all time. Like
Ooh,
so,
dang.
yeah, of a hawk. It landed like right in front of me. So.
I'll have to see that. That sounds cool. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was about to really like counterpoint with like it's much more higher contrast. Like actually today when I was out this morning, because I had a blue sky day, right? Because we're not too far away from each other. But it was like
Mhm.
this. I was at this local like little nature reserve, and it's like a really secluded spot. Like only a handful of people like in my area know about it, and there's like no parking. It's very just low key and everything. But it's like a wide open, expansive like it's got like a few like big ponds and marshy kind of wetlands and a creek running through it. It's like so cool in the middle of the city, near where I live, and I was just like out looking. I was actually looking for birds. Like I had just my telephoto binoculars on, just walking around because it's kind of like a walk heavy place. You feel like you just get a lot of steps in because it's wide open. But I saw this like I thought it was like a tree branch. I'm like that looks like a heron. Like it's shaped like a heron. So I put up my binoculars. I'm like, oh, it's a gray blue heron, cool. And I took like some shots, but it's like the light was just middle of the day. Like I said, it was too bright and my focus was off. So that's my fault, of course. But like the lighting was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean the exposure was good, but it was mainly the focus was off. But like I said, my fault. But like the lighting still like the catch light in the heron's eye where it has that yellow ring. It was still like overexposed. I don't know. It's just it wasn't as
Yeah, you
attractive
got
to
to
me.
be careful.
Like some of
Um,
my best heron shots are like I can think of one in particular. I was at a big old lake by myself, and it was like not heavy rain, but it was pitter patter enough, like a moderate rain, we'll say. And it was, of course, overcast for that. And yeah, I just feel like the shots are night and day better for wildlife in this case, birds.
yeah.
But it's
See,
all
the thing is,
subjectivity.
like, it. You really have to position yourself because I mean you've probably experienced this hundreds of times. The backlit bird shot is just not good. I mean, it's just so undesirable. You get that bright white kind of surrounding the bird.
You mean like a
Uh,
silhouette?
yeah, but like you
It
don't. You're
can
not even
work.
trying to do a silhouette. Like it's impossible not to
Yeah,
get one. Uh,
unless if the golden hour can make
oh
yeah the golden hour can
yeah,
make silhouettes beautiful, especially birds.
definitely.
I've seen I don't have much in my portfolio that would exemplify that, but I've seen other people's work and it's like it's crazy cool what you can come up with. It's creative.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the whole thing. Like, have you said you didn't have much. Have you like gotten any like successful wildlife at golden hour, like at all?
Yeah, I can think of a handful. I think I mentioned on a previous episode, a couple episodes back, but I've found that for like wildlife and birds, I find I like a much more natural light, not necessarily flat, but like much more like what do you call it, natural, I guess. Like the golden hour is beautiful and it makes birds look great, but like it's not indicative of the bird usually. You know what I mean? Like if it's like a white
Yeah,
goose, or let's say it's a mute swan, and like it's in golden hour light. I think I have a couple shots that kind of show that, but like it doesn't. I don't know. It looks yellow, of course, and it's just like it's a cool shot, but like I don't know. Maybe I just like a much more traditional like bird portrait in that case. I don't know. So it just depends. But I
Mm.
will say it's not like if it's sunrise and I see a beautiful bird in front of me, I'm not going to complain. Like, of course not. But it's just preference, I think, on the day and what I'm kind of going for.
There's definitely trade offs. Like golden hour, your ISO is going to be higher naturally. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess unless if you're trying to do like a completely dark silhouette, but if you're trying to get some detail on the bird, you'll really have to put that ISO up. On
Hmm.
a sunny day, you could probably end up shooting at like 100 in that range. So,
Yeah, I don't see why not. Depends on your lens
mhm.
choice, obviously, and all that.
Yeah,
I would
like
also say in this case, like spot metering would be really important.
oh yeah, definitely.
Because if I would say if more than like a third or even half of your scene in your viewfinder is dark or just black, you definitely want a spot meter in that case.
Mhm.
Probably for like when the
Yeah,
sky
because your
parts
your
of the
camera
sky.
will want to get that neutral exposure, and that's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's gonna try. It's gonna like the camera's meters like pretty stupid. So it's just gonna be like thinking, hey, you want to evenly expose this whole entire dark scene, right? So it's gonna try its best to up the exposure and be like, you want this bird obviously well exposed. And if you're trying to go for a creative kind of like look, I guess, or color, and you want like a silhouette, you got to override that manual settings and just change it to how you want it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I today even on the bright day, on that hawk shot I was talking about, I was actually able to do ISO 100, which is actually pretty crazy for my lens because, um, if the some of you may not know, but I have a f11 wildlife lens. It sounds crazy, but it works, and it was so bright today, I was able to get it down to 100. So,
That's awesome. Are you shooting handheld?
yep, handheld.
Oh
Yeah,
wow,
the
wow.
stabilization's great on that lens.
Uh,
It's
yeah, that's
insane.
good.
I can go down to 1/20th of a second handheld.
Man,
Yeah.
holding
I
it
think
like
it
straight
was
up or eye level.
uh yeah, if it's up in a tree, I can't do 1/20th.
Okay, okay.
Um tree would probably be 60, 80 maybe. But I was 1/100th today just because it was so bright. I didn't even need to go down that low to get my
Yeah.
ISO down.
I don't know. I'm too shaky for a handheld, so like
Mm,
anything under like 320th of a second, I'm just like that's my safe
yeah.
zone. I just can't do anything slower. I'm too shaky.
Yeah, and you've got more of a buffer too, because I think your lens is like 5.6, or I am not sure, but it's
And the high end of zoom, it's yeah 5.6. So I think up
nice.
to like two. I think up to 250 or so, it's like f5, and then anything beyond that, like up to 600, which I'm usually at 600 naturally, is going to be f5.6. So you're not losing
Nice.
much stops of light, but like I'm so
Mhm.
used to doing the 5.6 or even 6.3. But my lens, it has limitations, like it gets too soft, um, even at
Yeah.
that range. So it has to be a bird that's really close or tack sharp, or I have to nail that focus just right, or else it just doesn't work. It's gonna be too soft. You can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. Wildlife is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, in
I,
case
I
anyone didn't
definitely,
know,
yeah, I definitely want to try some golden hour though. It could
it's fun.
definitely be cool. I want to get like a heron at golden hour. Like that'd be insane.
It's
Like,
possible.
like
Now I
for
think
a
about it,
flagship shot.
I literally just thought because I kind of lied, I guess, because you're asking about silhouette birds. I actually do have some from a couple. It's kind of older. It's a couple 3 years back, which by now is a long time for me. But I do have some great blue heron shots that are silhouetted with like the foliage in
Oh
black.
wow.
It's like a really really dark image intentionally, but it was at like a local pond, and I was like, this kind of was newer, I guess, to the stuff. The name of the game, and I was like following, not chasing the heron around, but like he would fly to the other. He'd get spooked by me first off because I'd be like inching too close to him, my telephoto, and he'd fly to the other end of this like 17-acre lake, and then I just kind of walk the path around the lake, and then he just fly back the other side. It's just stupid, and I kept doing this for like a while. I don't know, hour maybe or two. I don't know, but like it got to be sunset, and it was just like cool. I found him like right before dark, and I just rattled off these shots, and yeah, they're silhouettes, so it's pretty cool. I think,
Wow.
even by my I guess standards today.
Yeah.
So I just remember those actually. It's been a
Have you
while.
ever tried abstracts at golden hour?
Yeah, actually, recently I did a handful at a local creek that I'm quite fond of. I've never actually done because it's funny because usually when I do abstracts, I like to do them in midday light because it's much more brighter color. I guess there's much more light on the color. Like if it's fall foliage, it's much more vibrant to me, or just late morning, we'll say. But like, yeah, a couple weeks ago, actually, I was at a local creek, and I I took like a static like water reflection shot in a creek, and I was like, cool, this is fine. It has like some felled trees reflected in the creek water. Cool. And I was like, usually abstracts are like my afterthought. Like, okay, I have a little bit of light left. What do I do? Let's just play around with it. So yeah, in this case, in this evening, I was like, I'm just gonna take the same kind of tree shot composition and just shake my camera, do all that stuff up and down, side to side. And it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to get that golden hour light in a much more dizzying, blurry kind of look. So that was quite refreshing, I think.
Yeah, it's nice change with the other abstracts. It can
Hmm.
be kind of the colors are a little bit less interesting during the day.
Yeah, they
When it
can
comes to
be.
like the movement, yeah. And you can get like a. I know it's not as much of a problem, but you can get a much better exposure at golden hour with abstracts.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't argue that for sure. It's much more easier, I think, to overexpose in the midday. But like,
Yep.
I feel like, yeah, it's just if there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's like the light's just better. I don't know. I don't even feel like it, to some extent. I don't even feel like that's subjective, of opinion. It's like the light's just much more. I don't know, nicer.
Hmm.
It's like more pleasant to work with. I think. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely, definitely don't limit yourself those hours a day because I,
Oh
I
no
feel
no.
like a true photographer, they go all day long. Well, if they can, but obviously,
I have.
a true
I
photographer
can't.
should be able to shoot, any time of day and get a decent shot.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. But this isn't like an exclusive. Like I'm telling you, or you shouldn't take this as law. Like this
Hmm.
is the only time. I mean, a lot of professionals will like pack their bags and leave before noon, and that's a valid reason for a lot of cases. But like, don't limit yourself. Like honestly, we may. Now I'm thinking about it, make another episode about midday light. That'd be kind of cool. I think. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah,
want to do that, Henry, but
I'm a
well,
midday light expert.
there you go. That'll be your episode.
Uh-huh.
But we'll write that down in the notes. So, anyways, yeah.
So
But
I
like, go ahead.
so I just had a thought. Are Do you think there's any off limits subjects, like not off limits, but things you highly recommend against not shooting in golden hour light?
I thought you were going to ask about midday light, and I had some answers, but golden hour. Well, like those come down to preference. Like I just said a little bit ago, birds aren't like I don't know. Like I said, it depends on my mood. I'm not gonna say I won't not shoot a bird in golden hour, but like, um, honestly, because the light's so much more desirable, I don't know if there's ever a time I was like, gee, I wish I shot that at, noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there's any real shot that I didn't think was improved by using sunrise sunset hours. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Because like I've done lakes, I've done like landmarks, I've done birds, I've done abstracts, I've done flowers, I've done. You get the point. Like I've done all these things in golden hour. I've done them in midday, of course. I've done them in golden hour, and some of my favorite shots happen to be those golden hour shots, just because the light is much more attractive, and anyone can go out the middle of the day to a local community park and take a phone photo of a flower, let's say, and but like to get
Although,
it, well, yeah, you know
I,
what I mean, like, but to get it
yeah,
like
I think
before.
flowers are good in midday, but
That's right. Yeah, I guess
mm,
what I'm getting at is like anyone can do that, but like to get up before sunrise and see the light play out and the sunrise over the horizon, and you get this flower shot that's really special. I think like not everyone's gonna get that. Like be patient enough to get that kind of shot. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely.
I feel like it
Um,
separates like the people, the weekend warriors, if you ever heard that term, like the people that might go out like the middle of the day, like they sleep in and they'll go out in the middle of the day and it's like, oh, it's almost dark. I better go home for dinner. Like those people, I feel like I'm gonna put some people down. Might
you're
be,
describing me.
oh man, I feel like I'm getting the pushback now. But like those people, I don't want to say they're not gonna make it. Like, but it's just like it's you're missing out on so much more if you don't like get up before sunrise, like get out of bed, and if you don't stay out past dinner time, like you're missing out on a
Mm,
lot of like good opportunities, I think, and some special times of day, and you see beautiful weather patterns, and there's just a lot more to see, I think, and I'm not sure. I mean, I was in that position for a long time, of course, so I don't think I'm just like perfect, but like, you do miss out a lot, I think, if you just exempt those early beginning and end of parts of the day.
Yep.
Anyways,
Um, for me with the off limits, the one thing I had in mind was like interior waterfalls. Um,
interior.
well, like a waterfall that doesn't have like an open sky. So like a waterfall in the woodlands, I would not
Uh,
suggest that for golden hour light.
Uh, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'd agree with
Because
that.
the shadows you'll get and stuff, you're just not gonna have enough light,
And
really.
unless if the rays of light, like I don't know if that's what you're going for, but what I'm thinking is like if the rays of light kind of like throw themselves through the frame and it looks cool, it might be something worth considering. But yeah, I would agree with that. I would say
Mhm.
overcast. Overcast. Okay, I guess I will restate my answer. Overcast light for long exposure water is more desirable than golden hour, but like I don't know, because the thing with golden hour is just like it's going to get sunnier during the day, and then those long exposures are going to be harder to make that look much more attractive, I guess. But like if it's an
Mhm.
overcast day all day, let's say, it's like okay, I can do whatever I want pretty much with the time I have. So,
Yeah, I long for an overcast spring day.
oh,
So
dude, I
nice
not.
grasses and flowers.
Dude, don't even get me started. Like nice big thick greenery that's like moistened and like from the rainfall. God, I sound like a poet or something.
I'm
But
with you. I'm with you.
you know what I mean? Yeah, I long. Me too. Me too. I long for those days like spring, summer. You hear the wood thrushes singing their little flute song in the woodland. It's like a nice pitter patter rainfall, green foliage, waterfalls abound. Ah,
Yep.
and it's like
We'll
not too
we'll get there.
humid, but it's like enough to make you kind of break a sweat, but that's okay. And it's like, dude, it's so good, so good. But
I've already started to notice that winter's kind of in its early stages of going away. I think Ohio's gotten some snow and Kentucky's been
mhm,
getting a lot of snow, but I feel like the light is starting to get a little bit more spring like, a
I'd
little bit
agree.
brighter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
It's been cold. It's been very very cold here the past like 2 weeks consistently, like enough so that the snow hasn't melted. But I heard this morning it's like gonna be negative temps in like a couple days.
oh
I don't know
wow.
how long, if it's just like a day or whatever, but I don't. I agree with you. I feel like spring's on its way for sure in the next maybe month or so. But like we're going to have some coldness, and
Hmm.
I've been welcoming the snow this year in particular. So
Yeah. I wonder what the groundhog said on Groundhog's Day. I wasn't paying attention,
six
but
weeks of winter, more weeks.
nice.
But who believes that?
Nobody
I
except for
remember.
those
Yeah.
weird townspeople that.
I remember the skunk cabbage last year. That early blooming like spring. It's like one of the earliest spring like I guess you call it a flower. It's not really a flower like if you ask me, but it's a plant. It came around in like mid February, like very early, and I was like, oh no, because it was such like a warm, wet like winter overall. But I know this year seems very traditionally like winter to me.
Yeah, yeah, more of in the past couple of years for sure.
Hmm.
It's
It's felt more like winter, which
mhm.
is okay. I'm okay with, I guess, if it
Yeah,
alternates.
yeah. It's good to
Yeah.
see that our Earth hasn't completely burned up yet. It's still got some winters left in it.
Yeah. Well, I hope not.
Who knows? Who
Anyways,
knows?
is there any like specialized gear that you'd use or anything in particular?
I'd say filters are usually important,
Hmm.
um, especially for the kind of like sunset golden hour shooting I do. Um, for a long time, I only had a six stop. I found that wasn't even really enough
Neutral
for some of the
density
stuff. Hmm?
is a neutral density.
Yeah, six
Okay.
stop neutral density. It also has a polarizer built in,
Oh,
so
that's
I
right.
guess it's probably more of like an eight stop. Um, I find that that's sometimes not even enough. So I would maybe suggest a 10 stop for,
Oh wow.
especially like seascape sunset photography.
Hmm.
Get that nice blurred water. Um, some people are like graduated indie shooters. Do you know what that is, Ryan?
That's where one. It's like a it's a filter where like one side is darker than and the other
Yeah.
one's lighter. It's graduated,
Uh,
so to speak.
so basically, some people do that. I'm more of a bracket guy, but if you're not really big into editing, I would suggest that
Hmm.
to kind of get an even exposure. Um,
Right.
and that's pretty much it. A tripod's useful as always, but especially during golden hour, you can kind of stay set up for a while.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I don't really find a polarizer very helpful at that time of day, uh,
Hmm.
but I have them built into my NDs, so yeah, I can use them if I want to. But yeah,
Right. I mean, I guess I'm the opposite in that regard with the polarizer, and because I just use it almost all the time. I find it helps with like sunsets a lot. Just to saturate colors and everything without having to like edit them in post usually. One thing I will say is I'm pretty sure most photographers, I'd hope, are shooting in RAW. If they're not, that's okay. But if you're shooting in RAW, your white balance doesn't matter for your images, just overall. And so, because you can obviously alter that in your post production, whatever your software is. But if you're shooting JPEG, and this is really just a textbook like thing you should just really pay attention to, anyways, is the white balance you use is stuck on that JPEG because it's a lossy file format. And obviously, RAW files are typically lossless, which means that they don't lose their data and their pixels and bits, to the image. If you're shooting, let's just say you're shooting in JPEG, you're shooting a sunset, I would recommend shooting probably in what warm. That'd be probably just ump up the colors at least. If you want to get much more neutral
um,
sunset,
I
shooting
would do
cool.
auto, honestly.
You shoot auto. Okay. There's
Yeah,
really no right or
camera.
wrong.
I mean, even if it's JPEG, I would say I personally would trust the camera more than myself because, like, depending on the angle that you're looking at the screen, what kind of light is like going outside, like bouncing onto your camera, you could really get the tint off or the like cold and warm tones. So you really have to be careful. I would suggest auto.
Right. I would say with auto, it might wash it out though. Like it might try to
Ye-
evenly expose everything and wash it out. But maybe I don't know. That's how I'm thinking of it at
Are
least.
you talking about white balance or exposure?
I guess the way I said that sounded like exposure. I meant like the
Oh,
sorry.
like wash out the colors.
Yeah, sorry, not the
Okay.
exposure
No, that's my
itself.
bad. Sorry.
No, no, yeah, I should have said that better. But like, it's not the exposure itself it's washing out, but like the tint, the temperature. It's going much more
Mm,
like flatter and duller. I think at least because because
yeah.
auto to me would be like the camera's like, oh, there's too much orange. Let's cool it down. Like that's how I see it.
Yeah, maybe I know most cameras you can set like a Kelvin value. Maybe
Yeah,
even look up like a good Kelvin value for sunset photography or whatever situation.
right.
You could just leave that set on your camera. That could also work.
I guess yeah, those white balances are pretty important. Like if you are shooting JPEG or just after the fact and post editing, like if an image is too warm and you want to cool it down, you just hit the cool white balance. Obviously, if it's warm on its own, but you want to like really pump up and saturate the color, you get to hit the warm white balance, and that would just make it even more warm. So there's no right or wrong, and like you said, Henry, it's like there's a Kelvin, there's like a cloudy day preset, or excuse me, a white balance, and yeah, there's
Hmm.
options there at least, but you know,
Yeah, I mean like white balance. That's one of the most complicated things. Like honestly, it's like people underestimate how complicated it is.
I've been talking, or I talked to recently. I met another photographer at one of my galleries, and she was looking at my work or whatever, and I was like, we're talking about like the color and temperature of your images when you print them, and I just like was because we relate on that, because we photographers, right? But like I was kind of like venting, kind of tongue in cheek, like, but I was being honest. I was just like, yeah, you look at the smaller print of the same like Robin photo, and then you look at this bigger print, and I'm like, that one's cooler, that one's warmer, and I'm like, I hate how you can't get like a consistent color base throughout. And she's like, I know, it's annoying, So it's like something that
Hmm.
we can relate on. It's yeah, I've been
Yeah.
finding myself trying to be much more like mindful and conscious of that, at least when photo editing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like even the paper you choose can make it
Oh
cooler
yeah,
or warmer. It's just there really a lot of steps go into it.
yeah, it's a
Even
whole
if you have like
science.
the most calibrated monitors in the world, you'll still have some color differences.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's why people print out those little proofs. Like they'll print out the same paper, but like on a smaller
Hmm.
size, just to see if the color hits it just right. And some people, I'm really lazy about it. To be fair, to be completely honest, but the best photographers that print their work is like they really get into it. Like they're like, this one won't slide. It's too cool. I want the greens to be much more vibrant and warmer. It's like, yeah, they get
Hmm.
really particular about it, which I can appreciate, of course.
Yep.
Someone's got to be. Do you like what? How would you post process like these kind of images, sunrise, sunsets? Like, what would you do?
Um, well, so usually I'm pretty conservative on saturation, but I kind of go crazy on golden hour images.
Yeah.
Um, Usually I don't do the like entire image slider. I usually do the selective color. So maybe I'll bring up the oranges or the reds or the yellows,
Right.
uh, or whatever is most prominent in the scene. Um, I don't go too overboard, but I do way more than I usually do. Um, I I like a good amount of contrast at golden hour, so maybe making the shadows a bit darker than I usually do. Sometimes I'll go for the silhouette look. Other times, just make sure I have nice prominent shadows. Um, I will bracket quite a bit, especially for like seascape stuff. Um, and basically, I just do two exposures, so one for the foreground, one for the sky. Um, and I try not to do like a huge exposure difference between them because I'm really not like a composite photographer. I like to keep it as natural as possible. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but that's actually like pretty much the only time I ever use HDR. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to get that practice in when it does come up.
Right. I honestly, you pretty much just said everything I would say, so I'd have to agree on all points, especially that bracketing situation. I rarely bracket more than twice, and I do the exact same thing you said, like one for the sky usually, and one for like the ground level, the foreground, background, midground, whatever. Just yeah, and like you said, I don't try to drastically make those like exposures different. I just like to keep it kind of nice, exposed. Front to back, nothing too crazy. And yeah, when editing, putting them together in post, I try not to get too crazy with it as well. Just try to keep everything kind of looking as natural as possible. But same here, I will up those colors. I think I do like a warmer color palette most of the time better. Like that's just more of a preference. But that's kind of why I just lean towards. I feel like people like to see warmer colors, myself included.
Yeah, I think it can look a bit odd sometimes if you try to introduce too much blue into a scene that doesn't have much blue in the first place.
Or vice
Uh,
versa.
yeah, your viewers could get kind of confused, and I don't know,
Does it
but
does it bug you like when you see? I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but like, have you seen like like it's clearly like a wintry kind of landscape or some kind of shot, and it's like pumped up with warmness. Does it bug you, kind of, or
oh
what's your take on
yeah,
that?
definitely. Obviously, not if it's a moderate amount, but if it goes to extreme, yeah.
Well, if it's like a sunny day, like I guess it kind of gives that illusion of warmth, like in an image of like let's say a snowy woodland, but like it's definitely kind of jarring when I see like it's warm, like just like an orangey, like a very orange looking like snow on the
Mhm.
ground. I don't know. It looks really kind of
Yeah,
strange to me a little bit.
when I think about those images, no offense to people who do this, but I kind of think of it being kind of like an amateur mistake
Yeah,
to an extent.
because I feel like people equate a lot of the times like snow and winter with coldness, and they're like I don't like that, and then they just kind of in post be like, oh, I'm gonna up it so it's warm and cozy, and I'm like, but no. How'd
Yeah.
how'd you feel in that moment? That's what the image should be about. Like you're probably freezing your butt off, and you know
Mhm.
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. It's to each his own, and it's whatever you're the image taker, so it's whatever you want to make the final output. It doesn't matter what we say, but
Mhm. Unless you're like delivering for like a client, of course, I would
oh,
try to
definitely.
represent that golden hour, like kind of as you see it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely agree. How do you feel about like sunbursts, like artificial and natural, I guess, but
Starburst, is that what you said?
yeah, like not like candy. I'm sunbursts, like
I love them. I think they're great. Um, I try to use them a lot with once again like lakescapes or seascapes. it's the only problem I see is that usually, or at least on the lenses I have to stop down like to like 16 or 22, f16 or f22,
Mhm.
and that isn't always the sharpest because about diffraction, of course.
Right.
Um,
You want to explain
but
that
it
for
still
the?
creates a really nice look, and if you have kind of a boring composition, you can really spice it up with that.
What I think is I've seen photographers that like they will overdo the sunburst like look artificially, like in post production, and that could be considered a motif or a style, I guess, but it's not really something I go for. And I very rarely like sunburst, even naturally speaking. Like you were saying, using a very small aperture, like f18, 20, or 22, something like that. I just find that look not really is something I really am excited about because it does create sun flare if you're not careful. And let's say you're not using a lens hood and you're facing your lens towards that sunlight, it can just create lots of sun flare. And it's I don't know, it's not really a I guess technique I don't really seem to employ much when I'm out in the
And
field.
any imperfections in your lens, scratches, dust spots, they're magnified exponentially when you do that.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, diffraction, which I mean, if for anyone that doesn't know, it's like if you're at a really small aperture on your lens and you stop down so far, maybe even to the farthest point, the highest f-stop number, it creates this fringing that's on, like, let's say there's tree branches in your frame, and it'll create these purple. If you zoom in real close, like on your computer, let's say, it create these really, like, it's kind of subtle, but it's there and it's noticeable. It's kind of considered like a not really a defect, but like a lesser desired quality. And it creates these like purple and blue, sometimes like banding, like
Oh yeah.
like edges around like small,
Is it
let's say
is,
objects. You
is
know,
that is that called chromatic aberration, right?
is that aberration? Okay,
I
isn't
think
there?
so.
Oops, we got our facts right. Yeah, it creates all those things. Honestly, it's diffraction, aberrations, artifacts. Yeah, anytime you stop down your lens, really, you run the risk of doing that. So yeah, sunbursts
Yep.
are not really something I really am excited about taking, I guess.
If you can shoot through the trees or like through some rocks and get a starburst through it, that could be like a really cool composition.
Hmm.
I remember Tony Northrup did a video about that once, like a shot he planned with the starburst. It was really cool.
Huh.
So I always remember that.
I guess yeah. If I was to do one, like I would definitely do that kind of the sun creeping kind of through the. I'll position myself so there's like a big tree trunk in front of me or something that would obscure the sun, and then I have it creeping out from like one of the sides, kind of like the edge of it. And yeah, that's one surefire way to get that kind of sunburst quality to an image.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. Did you have anything else you want to add for golden hour?
I don't think so.
Cool. I feel like we covered a lot there. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So do you have any announcements?
This one's not really. It's local, but not really because you can access it online. But I have one piece. I'm in a local arts council. I'm a member at least of Yellow Springs Arts Council, and they're having a virtual membership for the month of February. And they're having. I don't know how this is going to work honestly, but I submitted one piece to the show, and it's going to be like an online gallery or whatever on the website. And there's going to be a virtual reception on February 19th. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't actually don't know what time. I guess it has a time to it. So I don't know how that's going to happen, virtually speaking. So, but we'll see. So regardless, it's nice publicity, and I didn't have to pay anything to get in. So because I was already a member.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it, though. How about you?
Tomorrow, the 16 to 35 f4 is coming in.
Ooh, okay.
And I've never shot that wide before, so I'm really excited. I've pretty much been at kind of the standard 24 millimeters for like all my photography uh, career, I guess. So it'll be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to getting those like big foregrounds, kind of the typical landscape wide angle shot. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. Anything in your foreground, point down at it. It's gonna make it look real
Oh
big.
yeah,
Find a big
uh-huh.
old rock or boulder and just point that thing down.
Yeah, and
Dude,
even
you're
I've
you're gonna
heard
like it.
macro. Yeah, I've heard even macro like flower
Ooh,
stuff.
yeah.
Like you can get like right on top of flowers and get like groups of flowers and stuff. So I'm
Oh yeah.
excited for that as well.
Yeah, that lens is a winner, so I can confirm there.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
won't
that's
drop it in
awesome.
the water though. You know, I'll be careful.
Hey,
I'll be careful.
so far this year I'm doing great. Knock on all the wood.
You
We'll
got
see.
This will be your water-free year. You got it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my announcements. I think that's pretty much it for this week. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you so much for watching the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the video version on YouTube as well. You can subscribe down below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.